Hello friends, welcome to this last unit of our great course. In fact, this last unit, I can say, is like the climax of all that we have been discussed so far. And this unit is definitely based totally on all the universal human values that have been discussing. And today, at the next session, is about the human rights. So before we proceed further, let's have a look at what we discussed in the last session. As you remember, the last session was about influencing and being influenced by the environment. We discussed that the present condition of social environment and the consumer society affect us. There are so many different possibilities within the family, within the institutions where we study, at the community level, at our workplace, and in fact, whatever environments in which we interact with others, we are being influenced and we can influence them. So let's not take it for granted that we are foolproof and nothing is going to affect us. No, it's not so. We have to be careful and protective of our values and healthy attitudes. We also discussed how hedonism influences the lifestyle of today's generation. And there is great thirst for pleasure seeking, great taste for comfort and for such things. Now, before we proceed further, let's reflect on a few questions that relate to our discussion for today. The first question is that what is human rights and its source? Secondly, is human rights necessary for the smooth passage from the age of adolescence, the transition stage that we are now passing through, to reach to the stage of maturity? Do we need human rights? And how? And thirdly, are great efforts needed to enforce human rights, to protect human rights in today's society, or can we take them for granted? That, of course, with so many institutions and systems in place, of course, human rights will be upheld. So, among the characteristics that should be present in the social environment is perhaps the basic standards of human rights. The basis of human rights is the gift of qualities, virtues, and powers which the Creator has bestowed upon mankind without discrimination of sex, of race, of creed, or of nation, to fulfill the possibilities of these endowments that we all have, those great gems that are within us, those great powers which are within us, or that great purpose that we all need to fulfill them, is the purpose of human existence. Or we can say that the human rights are the prerequisites for every individual to fulfill his inherent endowments and talents. Without human rights, we cannot fulfill, we cannot develop those endowments that we all have. Let's consider this vital aspect of our individual and social life by learning about the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which were adopted and proclaimed by the General Assembly of the UN on 10 December 1948. There are 30 articles. We go through these articles one by one. We try to discuss a little bit about each one, and we'll try to visualize some cases where these articles may be violated and how do we resolve them. So, there is a practical for you before we go ahead. If you know of the counterparts of these articles of the human rights in the laws and constitution of India, please note them down. So as we discuss the articles of human rights. If you are already familiar with the Indian Constitution or with the laws, you can mark it and say, okay, this is what we have in the Indian laws or Constitution. And if you are not familiar, all right, no problem. After you learn about all the 30 articles, you can look for and find out the counterparts which are there in the Indian Constitution or the laws of the country. Also indicate as to how you find these articles being practiced in your area. That's even more important. And then you should now search the internet or other literature available with you to explore more about the 30 articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And a good such source that we surely recommend to all of you to please visit is the website called Youth for Human Rights. So you will enrich your understanding of the human rights beyond what we discuss here, and then you will search for their connections with the Indian Constitution and the Indian laws. So, Article 1 says that we are all free and equal. Look at the beauty of the words that have been used. The article says, it's there on your screen, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Okay, to help our discussions to become deeper, I have here Mr. Parag. You know Mr. Parag before. In a number of occasions he has been part of this discussion, and Mr. Savant that you also know. So, Mr. Savant, this first article of the human rights, all are equal. Would you like to throw some light on it, please?
Yes. Look at the nature and what it offers. Flowers bloom for everybody.
Yes.
The sun rises for all.
Of course.
Yet, we as people often discriminate by treating people differently. We say he belongs to X group, so we won't speak to him, or she is poor, she is not interesting. But although these incidents may happen at individual level, unfortunately, there are very serious violations of this article on massive scale in most parts of the world, where people are not treated equally because of their beliefs, because of gender, or because of race.
Surely even the first article is not being practiced in many parts of the world.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's challenging in the current circumstances and the situation of the world. But yes, this article is really not being practiced in the way it should be.
That's true. So this article reminds us that all human beings are born equal.
Yes.
All newborn babies should have the same rights to life and enjoy the same privileges such as food, clothing, shelter, and education, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we go to the next article, article number 2, which is about not to discriminate. Quite connected to the first article. The article says, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration. It's for everyone, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, it says, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. All right? So, all are equal irrespective of where you belong to. You cannot be discriminated against because you belong to this region or to that country. No, that is against the human rights. The Article 2 protects the rights of everybody, no matter to where one belongs. Now, to help us, understand this article better, let me ask Mr. Parag, can you give us a hypothetical case related to this article so that it will help us to understand this article better?
Sure, sir. Sure. So this hypothetical case, I'm sure that all the dear learners would love to listen. It's like a story.
Yes.
So my family is a traditional tribal family, and we live in a tribal district. Out of the whole family, only I was sent for education outside our district, as my parents could afford only one child's education. I decided to study law, hoping I could help my people in some way. My early years at home were reasonably peaceful, though poverty always stared us in the face. There was never any problem about observing our tribal religious practices, and the other communities in our villages freely observed theirs. They would go to their places of worship whenever they wished for prayers. We were very friendly, not having any prejudice towards others' beliefs. But gradually, this peaceful atmosphere began to change. Fundamentalists came visiting our area, holding meetings and sowing hatred and prejudice in the minds of the local inhabitants towards those having a different belief system. Neighbors began to view each other with suspicion. Tension mounted in the area, and finally, violence erupted, and the communities that had lived in harmony started to kill each other and burn their houses. We lived a little outside our village, and I was on vacation at home when violence broke out. My legal studies, which included the study of the UN Declaration on Human Rights, to which my country is a signatory, made me aware that each and every citizen of the country is entitled to freely hold his or her beliefs. I was shocked at what was happening. The law of the land was being completely trampled upon. I could see the locals running for shelter to other homes and being turned away out of fear. Then a family belonging to the other community, their children and elder members ran towards our home. They reached us, weeping that their home was burnt and they were in fear of their lives. Could we shelter them? My parents said no, they would be punished for giving refuge. But I thought if all of us gave up at this juncture and forgot the fundamental rights of each other to practice their religion freely, then we would be forced to live in a society without democracy and freedom and rights. Someone had to make a stand for these basics despite the consequences. I opened our door and let the frightened family in. We hid them praying that the pursuing crowd would pass by. It was a fearful time, and I wondered whether I did the right thing putting my family in jeopardy for the sake of another. Did I do the right thing? Or was it a foolish act, not thinking of the consequences? What would you do under the circumstances?
Wow, a very interesting case really, and you said it so wonderfully, and it makes all of us think. So, the dear learners take 4 minutes time to discuss with each other about these last questions that Mr. Parag put to us. Did I do the right thing, or was it a foolish act, not thinking of the consequences? And what would you do if you were there in such a situation? 4 minutes.